Hello everyone, thanks for being here. This is Goose Auto Works, and this is what we're doing today. Okay, so before the internet goes crazy and just assumes that my car got crowd hungry, leaving from Cars and Coffee or another such establishment, I want to set the record straight and say that somebody hit me, or at least I think. I came out to a parking lot one day, saw this, and based off of the way that it's spider webbed, I'm assuming someone backed into it or something, and now I gotta fix it. Hey, I get it. They pulled out in front of you. Wasn't your fault. You had no choice but to hit them. Or that time that you were driving down the street, minding your own business, and a fire hydrant pops out in the middle of the road like a giant red groundhog. Either way, you've got something to fix, and I'm going to show you what you need to do it. So first and foremost, if you are repairing a panel that's already been painted, you're going to need to get any of that old flaky paint off. So to do that, I have a 180 grit sandpaper. Next, you're going to need to scuff the panel anywhere that paint may potentially land, and that's going to allow that paint to actually bond to your surface. So I have some scuffing pads here. Alternatively, you could use the backside of a sponge. It's about the same consistency, but this will get you in a place that you want to be. After you've done all of that, you're going to need to mask off anything that you don't want paint to be on. So if you're pulling the panel, obviously you're going to have a lot less of that work to do. But here I just have some painter's tape and some plastic. Make sure you're using an actual painter's tape. A lot of times the cream colored kind of masking tape will not hold up to the solvents that are in these paints, and so it will dissolve it and it will just be a nasty goopy mess when you go to pull it off. So do yourself a favor, just get a good quality painter's tape and you'll be good to go. I have my respirator here because when dealing with any kind of chemicals like these, it's a good idea to have, but especially in the case of this clear coat and the blender here, they're pretty gnarly, and even in a well ventilated area, they'll start to make you feel lightheaded pretty quick. So speaking of all the paints, I have a special primer here called a adhesion promoter. If you are painting bare plastic, you definitely need to use this. I know I'm probably going to break into the plastic, so that's why I have it here. And it will basically just allow the paint to bond to that surface better. Next, I have a filler primer because using this 180 grit, I'm probably going to have some surface imperfections that I know I'm going to want to get rid of. So that's just going to help me out with that a little bit. Next, obviously, is going to be the base coat. This has been custom tinted to my color code for my vehicle. And then the two-part clear coat. So this one I used in my caliper painting video. And basically, you'll take that red little stopper off of the top, you'll put it on the bottom, and you're breaking a seal between the clear coat and the hardener that are inside, and that allows them to mix. So being that that's a chemical reaction, it has a pot life. Don't break that seal until you're actually ready to use the clear coat, and go ahead, set a timer if you have to for a couple minutes and just really shake that up so that everything's mixed up well. You probably have about 2 days to maybe a couple weeks, just depending on the environment, to be able to actually use this. But again, if you just wait until you're ready to use it, you'll have plenty of time to spray it. You won't have to worry. Just wait until that time before you mix it up. Next, I have a spot blender. A lot of times when you're doing something like this, you'll scuff the whole panel, paint the area that you need to, and then re-clear the whole panel. I will go into a little bit more detail later, but basically what this blender is going to allow you to do is just to be able to clear the parts of the panel that are affected by the new paint, and then you can blend the transition between the new clear coat and the old clear coat. Next, if you have to, or if you want to, you can wet sand and polish the clear after it's done. I won't be doing it in this case, but I want to go ahead and show you what you would need if your paint job necessitates it, or if you just are wanting to take it a step further and get to that kind of show car finish quality. So I have a 600, 1200, and 2000 grit sandpaper. The 600 is going to knock out all that orange peel and any of the surface imperfections that you have. The 1200 and the 2000 will refine those scratches a little bit better so that the polishing compound can do its job more effectively. This is a really good product line from 3M. Mine say ABC, some of them may say 1, 2, 3, but the idea is the same. They're meant to be used sequentially. And so the first one, the rubbing compound, will take out any of the scratches left behind by the sandpaper. Next, you'll come in with the machine polish, and as its name implies, you'll use a machine polisher. It will basically take out any of the swirl marks or anything left from the first part, and that will basically bring all of your shine back. The last one, the hand glaze, again, as its name kind of implies, you apply that one by hand, and that is just to get to that next level of gloss, just kind of pushing it beyond what it would normally look like and just really bring it to that kind of show car shine. And that's just going to be the last step, the last little cherry on top. So again, that's optional. This is what you would actually need. This is what I'm going to be using for this video. So let's go ahead and we'll jump into it. All right, so there's a few things that you're going to want to take into consideration before you even start this process. One is going to be the weather. So assuming that you don't have a controlled environment or a paint booth or something like that, you're going to want to do this on a day where there's relatively low humidity and not too much wind. So it's actually a really, really pretty day out today, but the wind is starting to pick up a little bit. So what I'm probably going to do is leave the front bumper out and exposed just long enough to get it prepped. And unless the wind has just completely gone away or something, I'll probably turn it around in the garage so that it's a little bit more shielded from that. The second thing that you're going to want to take into consideration is the location of the damage on the panel that you're repairing. And what I mean by that is on mine here, the damage is really easy to get to. I can access all of it. I have plenty of room in all directions from the damage. So I don't really see a need to have to take this bumper off. I've removed the grill. I'll take behind here and I'll clean it all up and everything. But again, everything that I need to get to is just right here. So if you've got something where it's at the edge of a panel or it blends into two panels, or if you're repainting an entire bumper altogether, I would go ahead and say to pull that off. But again, for me, everything I need to get to is right here. So I'm going to leave it on for this process, but it's up to you in your judgment on what you should do for yours. Here I'm just using regular dish soap and water. Under normal circumstances, when you're washing your vehicle, you'll want to use an actual car shampoo because dish soap will remove any kind of protective wax or polish you have on there, which is precisely why I'm using it here. I want to make sure that there's nothing on the surface of this paint that will prevent the new paint from bonding well. Waiting for the answers to the universe, waiting for someone to wake me up, tell me that this is all just a dream. I'm still waiting for a different sign, waiting for someone to take me away, get these thoughts off my mind. As I wait, thinking of you. It's still really windy, so I went ahead and spun the car around. This is the point I got to though with all of the prep work, and so this is how I'm going to leave it before moving on to the next step. I washed it. I used a 180 grit here in the middle, scuffing pad out to the edges. I did a couple rounds of mineral spirits, and then I actually washed it again. So on this damaged area here in the middle, I made sure that I could not feel any raised edges or gouges or anything like that. A good rule of thumb is if you can feel it, you'll see it. So if you can still feel any of those defects by the time you spray some new paint down, it's going to show through. And so all your prep work was for nothing. You'll have to do it again, or you'll be left with a product that is a little bit less than what you were hoping for. So next, I'll go ahead and I'll start masking some areas off. I'll be using a technique called backmasking. So in some of these areas down here where I am not going to be painting, instead of just taping the tape flat down and having a hard edge between it, I'm going to be kind of folding the masking tape over. That will allow some paint to go through. It'll kind of feather in, and I've kind of used that technique in my caliper painting video. So I'll be doing the same thing here. And the whole idea is just so you don't see a stark contrast between new and old, or you can feel a difference between the two. So I'll go ahead and get that started now, and then we'll get ready to start adding the primer. Okay, everything is masked off, and yes, they are trash bags. I'm sorry, bear with me. I'll be going to the store later. I'll get some actual plastic, I'll get some actual masking paper. So sorry about that. It's a little crazy right now with all the virus stuff going on, but I think for our purposes, this will be fine. Anything that I don't want there to be paint on, I've gone ahead and masked off. I have back masked along the bottom edge of this body line here. So I plan on sticking with paint more or less just right here in the middle. I'll feather it out a little bit, and I plan to do the clear coat about to the middle of each headlight, give or take, and then that's where I'll be putting the blender down. So when using a blender, you want to do it in kind of as small of an area as you can, just to minimize any visual transition that might still be there. And I think that's probably going to be a pretty good spot, so I'll do it there. I'll go ahead and I'll hit it at the bottom edge here as well. And so now that everything's taped off, I'll go ahead and I'll start laying down the primer. Then I'll come back, put down the base and then the clear, and we'll see how it all goes. You guys, come on. Not too bad for a couple rattle cans and a modest little garage. Now, there is some orange peel, as you can see. And that's something that I have noticed with the 2K in a can. It is more prone to orange peel than spraying with an HVLP gun. But I'm not going to touch this, I don't think. I have plans for this front end down the line that I won't spoil just yet, but I am not too concerned with getting this like glass for right now. And like I said, a couple rattle cans, I think that came out just fine. So I'm not going to touch this. I'm going to leave it alone, let it dry up overnight. I'll move it outside tomorrow, try to get a good effect of what it looks like out in the sunlight. But first impressions, I am quite pleased. Okay guys, so there's the car done. It's not perfect, but it's a heck of a lot better than it was. I'm probably going to give this at least a week or so before I wash everything, just to give it a little bit of time to set up and cure. I'm going to give it at least 30 days before I put any kind of sealant or wax or anything like that over it. And again, I've got some ideas in the future for the front end of this, so we'll mix it up here after a little while anyway. Couple things to point out. Like I mentioned, doing the 2K in a can, it is more prone to the orange peel. You can see some of it here. A lot of that's just to do with the reducer that's in there. You don't really have the ability to customize adding more or taking out less to kind of work with your ambient temperatures and whatnot. If you want it to lay a little bit flatter, usually you'll over reduce that mixture. The other thing is you're stuck with the pressure that you've got in the can. So clear coat's thick. It needs a little bit more to get out and to atomize well and to lay down. So if you're doing small parts, this is definitely a way to go. It's quick, it's convenient, it lays down a lot easier, or at least you have more control over it over a small panel. If you're doing something large like this, if you have the ability to mix your own clear coat and to spray clear coat out of a HVLP, that's definitely the way to go. It's just more cost effective. You get a wider fan. Like I said, you can over reduce it a little bit and you can get it to lay down a little bit flatter. But for little spot repairs and things, for just touching up small little accent parts or trim pieces or something like that, it's really cool. And you can always wet sand and polish this. Just make sure that you give it enough time to fully cure. But I guess that's it for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll see you in the next one.
These conversations